Good evening, VC. Daz here, Jimmy the Saint channel. Jimmy the Saint's channel. Sounds so awkward, that. Why didn't I just call my channel Daz's Vinyl channel, or Daz's Spinning Black Circle, or something like that? Anyway, I'm Daz. This is the Jimmy the Saint channel. Jimmy the Saint's channel. How can a made up fictional character from a Bruce Springsteen song have a YouTube channel? Anyway, I'm not going to change it. We're stuck with it. It's the Jimmy the Saint channel. Welcome to Jimmy the Saint's channel. Jimmy the Saint does vinyl. Anyway, I'm Daz. Less of the wittering. This is an entry into a competition, and it's for Miss LadySoul channel. That's Eve over at Miss LadySoul. I will put a link to Miss LadySoul's channel in the comments down below for those of you who haven't seen it already. Eve is celebrating reaching 200 subscribers. Very well done, Eve. Very well deserved. I do enjoy watching your videos, and it's always something a little bit different. Like she says in her video, there's not a lot of funk, soul, R&B vinyl community channels. And even though it's not my thing really, funk and soul, I do have some. But anyway, Eve wanted to know five questions to answer. Number one, 3 favourite rock albums. Now I've changed this just a little bit. I hope that's okay, Eve. Rather than going, I couldn't narrow it down to specific albums, so rather than going for 3 rock albums, my go-to albums that mean something to me or that have coloured my future direction of what music I like, I've gone for 3 artists, if that's okay. First up, and I'm sure you guys have heard me mention this fella before, and it's Nils Lofgren. This is the Cry Tough album. I think this is possibly the first one that I heard. Nils Lofgren plays in Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, but also does his own stuff, and he's been in other bands. Neil Young has just released a new album with the band Crazy Horse, and Nils Lofgren used to play in Crazy Horse back in the day, but I don't think he's been in there for a while. Obviously busy with Springsteen and his own stuff, I presume. But on the latest album, which Neil Young's just released, Nils Lofgren makes an appearance in Crazy Horse, and he was also in Grin, as well as other bands and appearances. More Nils Lofgren. Now, Nils Lofgren albums, I've seen him twice live, and I think the guy's underrated, shall we say. I think the guy's phenomenal. Nils Lofgren again, self-titled. He's had his share of problems with the demon drink. Cheers. But I know he's got a very supportive wife who's helped him out with his problems. So anyway, back to my rock album. So Nils Lofgren is one of my go-to, and you've all heard me mention Gary Moore. Again, these things, I don't tend to play the records, but I always have it on when I'm at work. Just stream it, from either my phone or my computer. Again, extremely talented guy. He played on that album Out in the Fields with Phil Lynott, as you've just seen. So Gary Moore, and finally my go-to rock album, Queen, The Game, Queen, Date the Races, just good old classic rock. You can't go wrong with it. I've got other Queen albums, I've got other Nils Lofgren albums, and I have other Gary Moore albums, but I couldn't decide, I couldn't show them all, so that was my go-to rock albums which have influenced my musical tastes. So, moving on to the second question. Show 2 or more soul, R&B or funk albums. Now, I don't listen to a lot of funk, soul, R&B. I suppose the Red Hot Chili Peppers are funkish. I do listen to a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it doesn't come much more funk than James Brown. Again, I don't listen to it very often, I don't play them. "12-inch single, James Brown, Rap Payback and Rap Payback Part 1. Soul, can't go wrong with Marvin Gaye, 12-inch single, the only Marvin Gaye record I own, but again it has been played, I have listened to it, because there's nothing in my collection that I don't play at least once, but it's just not the music I go to. Now Discogs said that Santana, that this was funk, Latin funk soul, I think Discogs described it as. So I guess I'm allowed that one. It's a 12-inch single. Souvenir, 12-inch single from Santana in a limited quantity to commemorate the group's arrival in 1978. So Santana, I guess I can get away with that one. So that is the only funk soul that I have. Question 3. This is Eve wanted us to show an album which everybody should own but isn't shown in the VC very much. Now, I've gone for something a bit different. I've never seen it in the VC, and I don't know whether people in the States will have heard of this. There's an animated TV program called The Snowman, which, I don't know, you may have heard of it. It's usually on the TV over here in the UK at Christmas anyway, every year. This was a remake, well, not a remake, this was like a follow-up to it, The Snowman and the Snow Dog, and this is the soundtrack to it. And this is absolutely phenomenal music. I just love it. Elin Eshkeri and Andy Burrows of Razorlight did the music, and it just blows me away. It's just fantastic music. It's a gatefold, and I don't know how available this is. I bought this off Amazon, but if you're looking for something a bit different, I would highly recommend this. It's really laid back. It's kind of bordering on classical, but well worth checking out. It is on a lot of the streaming services as well. If you want to check it out if you want to stream it, that's what I did before I bought the album. But it's just it's on 180 gram vinyl as well. It's a really good pressing. But yeah, I would highly recommend The Snowman and the Snow Dog, especially with Christmas looming upon us. Might be worth checking out. Favourite live album? Again, I couldn't decide, so I've got 2. Hope that's alright, Eve. George Thorogood and the Destroyers live. I don't know where were they? Where were they live? It doesn't say. It was a benefit live performance for the Free Store Food Bank, but it doesn't say where it was. But yeah, George Thorogood and the Destroyers live. Phenomenal album. And also, speaking of phenomenal albums, Rory Gallagher live. It's compiled from performances throughout the European tour during February and March of 1972. I played this the other night and it's absolutely fantastic. If you can get your hands on a copy of this, do so. Absolutely blows you away. And finally, Eve asked for an album or a song that you used to hate but now like. Many of you will have heard in my previous videos that I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan. And because it's the Jimmy the Saint channel, because Jimmy the Saint is a fictional Bruce Springsteen character, you probably guessed it anyway. But it's a Bruce Springsteen album, Tunnel of Love. This thing first came out, I bought it on CD, and it was so different to what he'd done previously that it took me a good while. It took me years to get used to it. But yeah, Tunnel of Love, I used to despise this album when it first came out, and I've grown over many years. I think it was 1987 if I remember rightly. 87? It probably took me to 1992 to come to love this album. I probably still don't play it as often as I play other albums of his, like The River or Darkness on the Edge of Town, but Bruce Springsteen, I hated this album. But I have grown to love it. Anyway, that is my contest entry for you, Eve. Congratulations on reaching 200 subscribers. Like I said, extremely well deserved. And I'm now going to go and play some records. Thank you. See you next time.